Have you ever had a gut feeling? Do you know what I'm talking about? That profound sense of knowing exactly what to do in the moment? Well, what if you could have access to that way more often? In this video, I'm going to show you how your intuition, your gut feelings are your personal compass and they are meant for your unique path. I will show you how to recognize and harness them so that you can make much better decisions. What is up, everybody? My name is Barton Quigley, and I help corporate professionals and entrepreneurs who are done with the burnout. And I help them create a happy, healthy work life balance that is aligned with their passions and purpose. And one of the keys to having that kind of alignment is being able to harness your intuition and make those decisions that are best for you. By the end, you will have a practical framework for being able to access and harness this incredible superpower. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you a couple of tools of how I deal with all of the objections that will come up from my mind when I am pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. And if you've had those gut feelings, you know they are always pushing you outside your comfort zone. So, over the decades, I have asked countless people about gut feelings because I've been fascinated by them. And unless you're of a certain very young age, almost everybody has had at least one instance of this. And the older you get, the more you do have some of these gut feelings. And so my follow-up question is, okay, did you have an example of where you followed it and where you didn't? And when people are able to answer yes to both, I always say, okay, well, how did it go? Well, when I followed my gut feeling, everything worked out. It was like, boom, that was the exact right decision. When I did not follow my gut feeling, it was a missed opportunity. And I got to tell you, there's just a lot of regret for not following that. And for everybody, it's different. Some people say, "Yeah, I felt it. I felt it in my gut. I felt it in my bones. It's like I put my finger in the socket, or was struck by lightning, or there's just a real heaviness and a real grounded, and it catches people for a minute, right? Like it's cosmic. You know, you're stuck. You're just saying, "Whoa, what was that? And where did that come from?" Now, most people who do follow their gut feelings, their intuition, they report much higher levels of happiness, flow, and purpose. But many of us, yours truly included, will second guess gut feelings. Sure, you get the big dopamine hit like, whoa, yeah, that was cool. I'm totally going to do that, man. I had this vision. But then when you actually go try and put it into practice and actually do it, you're going to get resistance. Why? Because like I said, gut feelings are pushing you into new territory. They could be new relationships, new jobs, new opportunities, different habits and routines, a new way to work, a new town to live in. And your mind doesn't like unknown. Like I said, it might get a little thrill out of the whole cosmic feeling moment, but when you're actually doing it, it's going to try and talk you into staying exactly where you are. Look, this is a pretty basic operating system that we have. Your mind's number one job is your survival. Okay? Everything else is secondary. Everything else is secondary. And it prefers what is known. What is known is deemed safe. What is unknown is deemed a potential threat. And it does not like that. You ever stay in a relationship well past its expiration date? A job? Dead end town? Bad habits and routines? Yeah, we all have. It's called the human experience. But there are ways to learn to train your mind. But first, you got to understand the basics of the operating system. Like I said, this is number one's job. The number one job of your mind is for survival. So it's focused on scarcity, on fear, on kind of doubt, worry, doubts, all that kind of stuff. But when you can learn to quiet that, you can get into what I call your much wiser center of consciousness, which comes from within. That's why the gut feeling is always described in a physical sense. It is coming from within, and it is bubbling up. It is coming to you. It's very rare that people get a gut feeling when they're trying to sort through things, right? They're trying to think their way through. It's actually in the moments where they're not thinking that these cosmic lightning strikes happen. For instance, You ever had like the best idea in the shower? I've given the best talks in the world. I've made the best videos in the world when I was in the shower because my mind was quietly soothed by just the ritual of doing the bathing. Sometimes it could be like washing dishes or maybe just out on a walk. So making it a practice to provide more quiet moments where you can allow things to come up and pay attention to them, notice them, you're going to get much closer to being able to tap into your intuition on demand. Like I said, most people describe it as a lightning strike, but you actually can get to it as a dialogue. Now, here's the cool thing that I discovered, and I will thank Melody Wilding from the book Trust Yourself because she actually put it into words. I thought this was like kind of like, hippie woo nonsense, right? But I was like, well, hold on, how are we all reporting this thing about a gut feeling? And that when we follow, there's this, and when we don't, there's this. And she said, you can actually ask yourself questions and you look for the physical response. Makes total sense, right? These things come up. They're in a physical sense, physical nature. So, and it's different for everybody in terms of where you feel it because it's whatever somebody else reports, that's them. You're going to have to learn how it speaks to you. But she said, if you ask yourself a question, should I do X, Y, and Z? And notice what happens in your body. The basic way to describe it would be, she's like, okay, do you get a push forward or a pull forward and an attraction to? That's a yes. Do you get a pull back? That's a no. And if it's neutral, that means it's inconsequential or the answer has not revealed itself yet. Now, for me, that sensation comes from my hip area. And I'm so in tune with it now. It is so strong. I know exactly whether it's a yes, no, or neutral. Other people described it as like a glowing in the chest or some other sort of sensation. So the practice for you is to try this out in small ways. Don't throw the big decisions out there yet and go, okay, well, I'm going to take Barton's advice and go do it. Like, disclaimer, this is your life, your path, your decision process. So just start with even small things. I heard even someone say, try ask yourself, like, I don't know, it looks like it might storm. Should I take the trash out to the can and just see what happens? And follow it through to its conclusion and notice and make notes about what happened. The more you can do this, the more you're going to like get a better practice and understand what is sort of monkey brain chatter and actually what is your intuition. And the last thing I'll say is write these things down. Like when you have that moment, that spark, write it down. Because two things. One, you're going to get it captured so that you can come back to it. And two, you're going to get it out of your head where you identify personally with things. You're going to put it onto paper, which is going to help you see it from an objective point of view. And that is going to help you make the decision process of knowing, okay, what is actually true for me and what are just sort of random thoughts. All right, so I mentioned at the top of the video that I would share with you the two tools I use for working through all the fear and the worry that come with pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. The first one is called best case, worst case scenario. So write the idea down that you feel is a gut feeling and it's going to push you into something that's uncomfortable. And then write what is the best case scenario and then what is the worst case scenario. And like really be actual and factual at this and practical, because there are times where my worst case scenario is just bizarre. And literally as soon as I write it down on paper, I'm like, okay, well that's ridiculous. That will never happen. But also on the flip side, for the best case scenario, what could be the best, and like really explore and look at other possibilities, not just the first thing that comes to mind. So you're really trying to follow these two sides of the coin and the two sides of the thought process to their conclusion, and then sit with it. Really sit with what that best case scenario, like how do you really feel about that? Same with the worst case scenario. And just take your time with it. Feel your way through it. Don't make rash judgments. Better yet, even sleep on it and come back to it. But it's going to help you get the thought out of your head. It's going to be captured, and it's going to give you a way to look at it objectively versus identifying with those are my thoughts and those are my feelings. Now, the second thing that I have, which is, I'll admit it is kind of woo-woo. When I'm going for something where I am following my intuition, but there are so many questions and unknowns and fears and things that are outside of my control, things that I can't get an immediate answer on. It's sometimes I just got to be in that moment down the road and then I will figure it out. It's called a universe box. And what it is a way, you don't have to be this precious. I got this at a thrift store, or actually it was an antique shop, and I just love it. But it's just a vessel, something to write down all your different fears and worries and even hopes and dreams about this big thing that you're going to go after, and you put them in here because you're handing it over to the universe. You're saying, look, this is outside of my control. I can't control the outcome, but I want to recognize that this is in my head and it's a fear and a worry. And when your mind sees it captured on paper, regardless of whatever happens, it knows that it's in a safe place. All right. I think we're at the end. Yeah. Listen, I hope this helps you start. I hope you get excited, first of all, to say, hey, I might have a superpower that I'm not using. And you're going to start exploring on how to use your intuition, start tapping into gut feelings. And if this kind of material, this kind of stuff really helps you out, go ahead and subscribe. Nope. Go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.